Hi, I'm Anna and this is Tucker, and we hope you're having a great day. Today's video is all about what I have been reading the last couple of months. So way back at the beginning of September, I did my TBR video. I did a little spinner game and I called it my Gothic, Ghostly, and Grim TBR for September and October spooky season. So now we've finished up spooky season. We are now well into fall and November, aren't we, Tucker? With my favorite holiday, Thanksgiving in the US anyways, right around the corner. And so I don't know how many books I read. I read a lot. Let me see, let me count. Okay, so I had 14 books and 1 DNF. The DNF is probably pretty surprising. It'll probably shock you. It is a well-loved book. It is a well-loved movie. And let's just say I listened to it on audiobook and I couldn't do it. So I will reveal that a little bit later into the video because it was one of the most recent books that I read. I think originally in my TBR video, I chose 12. I chose 12 books and I read at least half of them, but I did mix it up and throw in some other books and this, that, and the other because a lot can happen in 2 months. So I'm going to go over the books in the order that I read them. I'll give you my rating. A lot of these I've talked about in various other films or shorts or whatever. So if I've already kind of given my opinion elsewhere, then I'll just make it really brief and then I'll let you know what video to go watch if you want my deeper thoughts on that. So let's get going. Okay, so I have my books piled up here right next to me, but I also have notes on my phone because I can't remember everything. So the first book is one that I originally got as an e-arc. I loved it so much, I went out and I bought a physical copy after it was released, and that book is After Midnight by Daphne du Maurier. Now, this is not a complete novel. It is a series of 13 spooky tales to read after dark. It has a new introduction written by Stephen King. I read the introduction. It was very good, very entertaining. And all of the short stories here are written by Daphne du Maurier. I learned a lot about her as an author through the process of reading this book and then doing a little research into the short stories that are in here. I had no idea that anything besides Rebecca had been turned into a movie. So this book contains the original short story called The Birds, which is what the Alfred Hitchcock movie is based on. It's very, very good. Oh, by the way, I gave this one 4.5 paws. I loved this. It was really good. So The Birds is quite different than the Alfred Hitchcock movie. So if you've seen the movie and you want to know what the original source material is, I highly recommend either picking this book up or, finding it in another format. There were several good stories in here. My favorites are The Alibi, The Birds, and The Apple Tree. Oh, and The Blue Lenses, which is the first one in here. It's really good. But if you like Daphne du Maurier, I would highly recommend delving into some of her short stories. They're creepy, they're gothic, they're fantastic. So the next book that I read, or actually what happened was I listened to simultaneously while I was reading After Midnight, I listened to Rebecca on audio, and I chose the immersive audiobook for this one. And all immersive means is just, it had music throughout and then it had some strategic, sound effects and stuff like that. It was quite good. So if you are unsure about reading a classic, even though this is more modern classic, I highly recommend picking up the audiobook. The narration is fantastic. This story is so creepy. Now, it's not traditionally known as a ghost story, but let me tell you, this story is very haunting in a very psychological way. So, you're not going to see anything scary per se, but this is a psychological horror thriller at its finest. It's beautifully written. It is a little slow to start. I will let you know. Like, you just got to give it 50, 75 pages. Just tell yourself it's slow and know it's going to be slow, and then it really picks up and you are just in the second Mrs. De Winter's head the whole time, and you feel her fear. It's like, it's visceral. So let me see, let me pull up my notes. I don't remember what I gave it. Let's see. I don't remember what I gave it because I didn't give it anything. But if I had to rate it, I would rate this, yeah, like 4.5 stars. I listened to this. It took me a while because it's a longer audiobook, but it would have been like a really fast listen or read for me. So I highly recommend this one. So in looking at my notes, I realized I skipped over the next book that I read because I don't have a physical copy of it. It was another ARC that I read, and it is called The Haunting of Payne's Hollow by Kelly Armstrong. And I rated it 4.5 stars. So it was published October 14th. So it is now out and, free for you to go buy. And I loved this book. It was a very fresh take on a folklore that we all think we know so well. And I didn't really realize that this particular folklore legend was going to be incorporated so heavily into this book. So I think I've spoken about Payne's Hollow in a couple of other videos, so I'm not going to go too far into it, but basically this woman is estranged from her family. Her family owns a compound, a mysterious compound on this lake, and it's called Payne's Hollow. Her grandfather, who is the patriarch of the family, dies. He's very tight-fisted and controlling of the family. Some portions of the family are richer than others. This particular woman, she's got a lot of debt, she doesn't have a lot of money, and her mom is not well off, and she has to find money to take care of her mom, and she drops out of college in order to do this. So when her grandfather dies, she's told at the funeral that you must attend the will reading, or the reading of the will. If you don't attend the reading of the will, nobody gets anything. Like, nobody else that has been bequeathed any portion of the estate will get anything. You must go. And so her aunt goes with her because she's really like the only person in the family that's still supportive of her. And so they go together and they listen to the reading of the will. And in the will, her grandfather says, I leave Payne's Hollow to my granddaughter. And this property is what everybody in the family wants. Everybody wants it because, not because there's a fancy mansion on it or anything like that. There actually isn't. There's just a few cabins. But the value is in the land, and the land is worth $10 million. That's not a spoiler. It's like revealed very early on. And so the value is in the land. Before the grandfather died, he already lined up a developer to buy it. So all you have to do is ink the deal, and you've got $10 million. And remember, she's strapped for cash because she has to take care of her sick mother. There is one catch, though. She has to spend 30 days on the property. She cannot leave the property, and he has sought through any loophole that might exist, and he has closed it all up. And so she agrees, she thinks about it, and then ultimately she comes to the decision to go. And she hasn't been to this property since she was 14. Something really bad happened. Her dad was accused of murder, and there's a whole blight on her family. So her aunt says, I'll go with you. I don't want you to be alone out there in the middle of nowhere by yourself for 30 days. That's crazy. I don't know what he was thinking. And so she goes with her. And then a series of haunting and kind of scary things start to occur on property. And so I'll leave it there. But yeah, I would say it's like not moderate horror, just below moderate horror, I think. There's some like horror elements, but I personally wouldn't call it horror. But if you're still looking for a good spooky book to read, it's a fast read. It's less than 300 pages. It's very good. I rated it 4.5 paws, I think. Yeah, 4.5 paws. So it's a great read. Go and pick that one up. I read 2 more books in the month of September. I was occupied with my kids starting school and everything, so I didn't have a lot of opportunity to read. But the next one that I read is called The Man Who Died 7 Times. And this is a translated work. It was originally published in Japanese, but this was newly published in English this year. So to people who only read English, this is a new release, but this was originally written, I think, in the 1990s, and so it's been released in Japan for a very long time. Oh, so far, by the way, none of the, oh no, this is the first book, I think, that was on my TBR? No, Rebecca was also on my TBR. Okay, so 2 books. This is the second book that I read that was on my TBR. So this book, I rated 3 something, I think. 3.5. I rated it 3.5 paws. So better than average, but a bit of a letdown for what I was kind of hoping for, I think, because the premise is fascinating. So we follow this 16-year-old boy who has what he calls a condition. And his condition is that sometimes he relives days over and over again, kind of like that movie Groundhog Day, where Bill Murray's character wakes up and he relives the same day over and over again, trying to figure out how to trigger the following day. So this boy has kind of a set pattern of time looping that he has figured out. It is not too complicated, and when the rules are explained to you, it makes pretty good sense. So it didn't have any problems there as far as like weird time paradox rules not working or anything like that. But basically, his grandfather is kind of the patriarch of the family. He is a restaurant mogul. He's old. He's going to die soon. He has to find an heir. And so he started inviting his family over to his mansion every year on New Year's Eve for the New Year's celebration. They're over there for New Year's Eve. It's the same ritual, and he rewrites his will every New Year's Day. And so he has a different heir every year. And so they're all vying to like be his favorite and be his heir, that kind of thing. And so the teenage boy never knows when his condition is going to be triggered. But it's been triggered enough times in his life that even though he's 16, he feels like he's 45 because he feels like he's lived like that many number of days. And so, as you can imagine, while they are at the mansion celebrating the new year, guess what? His condition gets triggered. While they're there, Grandpa is killed. And he spends his entire time loop trying to figure out how to keep his grandfather alive. He's also trying to figure out who killed him, but dual purpose, he's trying to make it through the day without his grandfather dying. Like I said, the premise is really interesting and the writing is really good. The translation is really good. I just think the ending kind of fell a little flat for me. I also thought that the character development was a little lacking. All the characters kind of felt the same, and it was hard to keep track of them because they all have Japanese names, and so a couple of them stood out, but then, you know, some of the other cousins and stuff, they all started kind of blending together, and I kept getting confused about who was related to who and who was, you know, the favorite for, you know, this and that. And especially when you're reliving the same day over and over again with only like minor changes, it starts to get really confusing. So that's why it wasn't a 4-star for me. I got a little confused and the ending fell a little flat. But I still think I would recommend it to people who like murder mysteries and especially don't mind an extra little kind of sci-fi element thrown in there. I still think it's very good. And the last book that I read in the month of September was also on my TBR. So in September, I did a pretty good job sticking to my TBR. But I read a classic, one that I have actually wanted to read for a very long time. I've talked about it in a few other videos, and that is Bram Stoker's The Jewel of 7 Stars. So Everyone knows that Bram Stoker wrote Dracula, and I've done a few videos on the origin stories of vampires and where Dracula and Bram Stoker kind of fall into the mix of, you know, the evolution of vampires. If you missed that video, I'll link it down below, where I just talk about my like literary journey through 200 years of vampire literature, which is kind of crazy. So, Jewel of Seven Stars, about mummies, not vampires. This came out after Dracula. It was never as popular as Dracula, but I would say it's pretty good. I've read Dracula. I listened to the audiobook a few months ago. I loved Dracula, especially the full cast audio. This, I think I rated a four paws. I'll look. Yes, I rated it 4 paws. It's pretty good. The major problem that I have with this book is that it literally takes half the book to get going, like 50% of the book. So if you are not used to reading classics, classics generally start slow. They start very slow. They start with, you know, like arcane language and grammar and stuff like that. And so it can get a little difficult to get into. This book is no exception. It is about a mummy come back to life. It follows an archaeologist who falls suddenly ill, and nobody can figure out what's going on with him. He's not dead, but he is unconscious for several days, and he's left some very cryptic notes that need to be followed very specifically for a very specific amount of time, and nobody can really figure this out. So he's got a daughter who he was estranged from for a while through her childhood, but then he's been trying to get to know her as an adult. So she's very worried about her dad, and her dad needs 24-hour care around the clock. Somebody's got to sit with him. It's part of his instructions. And so the daughter is friends with a lawyer guy, I forget how exactly, and she asks him to kind of be her companion through this. And there's various doctors that come in, and another archaeologist eventually comes in that her dad worked with very closely. And there's these like kind of little supernatural moments that happen that you're like a little confused about because you kind of can't like really figure it out. And I spent the first 100 pages like really waiting for something to happen. I really didn't want to DNF it because I've been wanting to read it for so very long. I will tell you that the majority of the action in the book and the majority of the interesting stuff that happens in the book is in the last third of the book. Once I literally I was about 60% in, and then it started like picking up, and then it got interesting, and then it got hard to put down. So that's why it's like an overall 4. But 1, I like classics. 2, I am probably more willing than most to give a good go at a book before I DNF it. And 3, I had just really been wanting to read this book. So I had a little more motivation. So for those of you who have never read a classic or have only read a couple or something like that, this is not a classic I would start with. I would save this for further down your list because it is not his best work. It's good. It's not great. And so my rating would probably be knocked down to like a 3, maybe a 3.5 for everyone else. But this is one of the first known mummy books. It was kind of like the birth of the mummy genre. It was adapted into a film 3 or 4 times in the mid-century films, you know, like 50s, 60s, 70s kind of thing. But yeah, that's where I would fall on this particular book. Okay, and now we get into my October reading. So I was far more successful in my reading during the month of October. I did deviate significantly from my TBR at that point, but you know, it's a long month and it happens. And the first one that I have is another arc that I was granted early access to. It's called The Women of Wild Hill by Kirsten Miller, and I rated this one 4 paws. So this is an interesting novel. It's billed as a feminist, witchy novel, down with the patriarchy kind of thing. Very true. All true. Very good description. So basically there's this house. It's called Wild Hill. It is like a house and a property. It's on the East Coast. It sounded like it was somewhere near Salem, Massachusetts, somewhere in there. It's got a very interesting history, and this family of witches is kind of tied to it, and they pray to or kind of incorporate, I guess, this notion of someone called the Old One, and that's kind of who where their power comes from. We get some flashbacks of the family, but in present day, there are these two sisters who spent a large part of their childhood at Wild Hill until their mother died. And then they are split up. They don't have, they're actually half sisters. They don't have the same father. And so they are split up. But before they split up, they have this big fight that kind of tears them apart. And they don't speak for 30 years. And then in present day, it's 30 years later. And one of them is a very successful actress. And the other one is, I don't know that she's like particularly famous, but she's a successful healer. Her power is a gift of healing. The actress's power is the gift of knowing when people are going to die. And so they get signs from the Old One that indicate to them they need to go back to Wild Hill. And neither of them are very interested in going back. But they realize they can't ignore the signs. If they ignore the signs, very, very bad things will happen. So they don't. And they go back to Wild Hill, and there's this plot that they have to figure out, and kind of, it's a bit, like save the world, save humanity kind of thing. So I really enjoyed the book. I thought it was very well written. I enjoyed the story. I thought it was a very interesting story. Just one huge caveat with this one. This particular book at times can get very preachy and heavy-handed as far as its political message goes. I don't particularly like books that are heavy-handed in their messaging, and I especially don't like it when it's just very transparent. Sometimes writers, I think, can be very creative, imparting some of their beliefs into their story, and that's fine, especially if it's done in a creative way and it's not like too in your face or too preachy. But there were several parts of this book that I found very in your face, very preachy, and very transparent, and it took me out of the supernatural element of the story. Also, I didn't quite understand the twist at the end. I had to go back and read it again to kind of fully understand what happened. The ending felt a little rushed, and I missed important pieces the first time. But other than that, it was a very enjoyable book, and I'm very happy that I was given the chance to read it. All right, so next book I want to talk to you about was my first 5-paw read of the last couple of months, and that was The September House. Now, I listened to this one on audiobook. This is one of the books that I have spoken about extensively in a different video, and so I won't speak about it too much here because they go way in depth. But basically, this is a haunted house story, but the narrator, to me anyways, is refreshingly sarcastic, like extremely so. But I like that. Her and her husband find this beautiful house. It seems perfect. They move into it, and slowly she realizes that it is not so perfect. The house comes with a few quirks, one of them being that every September it starts to up its antics as far as haunted house antics go. And by the end of September, it is like all hell is breaking loose. Don't be fooled though. This is, in fact, a horror novel. It starts out not horror novel-y. By the end, I'm telling you, very horror novel-y. If you don't like gore, if you are not a fan of a lot of vulgarity and cussing, maybe I might skip this one. But I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. I thought it was really funny at times, and good book all around, especially excellent as an audiobook. So 5 paws from me. Next up, we have Home is Where the Bodies Are by Geneva Rose. This is a thriller murder mystery that follows 3 adult siblings who are back for their mother's funeral. One of the siblings has been taking care of their mother the whole time. She never left, and she's kind of been taking care of her sister as well, who is a drug addict and, has never had her life together. Their brother, kind of got the perks of everything. He got to go to college and become this successful guy, and he moved away and all that, and he is now back for the funeral. And one night they're sitting around kind of reminiscing about their childhood. They're going through some boxes, trying to sort things, and they find some VHS tapes. And, they're nostalgic and talking about memories. And so, one of them is like, hey, let's pop in one of these VHS tapes because Mom's still got a VCR. Look at that. And so, the other 2 were like, great, fantastic, let's do that. Because otherwise there's a whole lot of tension between these siblings. These siblings do not like each other. They have major issues with each other. So they pop this video in, and, it's a summer video, and, oh, look at that. Don't you remember this, that, and the other? And then it kind of goes to snow for a second. And then it changes, and it's clearly not related to what the label says. It turns out they watch as their mom and dad discover a dead body of a girl that's been missing for like 20 years or something, somebody that they all knew. They never knew what happened to her. And, of course, they're watching this video intently, and then it cuts off before they ever figure out what happened. Well, they do know, they start piecing things together. They do know that after the date on that video, things got real weird between their parents. They could never figure it out. And so they start trying to put the pieces of the puzzle together. And what they find is very startling, of course, because it's a thriller. So this is the first book by Geneva Rose that I read, and I quite liked it. I think I gave it 4 paws. Let me double check. Yeah, I gave it 4 paws. I thought it was really good. It was fast-paced. The writing was really good. Nothing too hard to understand. I can't remember if I saw the ending coming or not. I don't think I did. No, I didn't. I didn't figure out the ending until right before it was revealed. So that's all very well and good for me personally. I mean, nothing too particularly special about it, I would say. But if you're in the mood for a fast-paced thriller, it's pretty short. I think it's like under 300 pages. Yeah, it's just under 300 pages. If you're looking for one of those types of books, this is a good choice. Next up is the second half of the Haunted Houses books that I read this month, or last month, October, and that is We Live Here Now by Sarah Penborough. And so I did a video comparing the haunted house between We Live Here Now and The September House, because both of those books feature houses as characters, I feel like. I'll put a link to that video in the description box below if you're interested in watching that. I gave this one 5 paws as well. I thought it was really good. It's very fast-paced. It's dual perspective, actually technically triple perspective, but like that third perspective doesn't show up very often. Again, it's a shorter book. Yeah, it's under 300 pages. And so this time, again, we follow a couple who, after a terrible accident with the wife, want to find a kind of fresh start to their lives. And so they purchase a country home out in the English countryside, and it seems perfect on the outside, and it's got some less than perfect things going on the inside. This one is far more psychological. It's not gory at all. The dread is all very psychological and all that. One partner thinks the other partner is going kind of crazy. And so the partner who is seeing stuff is like, am I crazy? I don't know. I don't think I'm crazy, but my partner thinks I'm crazy, so maybe I'm crazy. I don't know. And she's starting to try to piece the history of the house together. So I will tell you that the twist ending to this book is not one that I saw coming. When everything was finally revealed, I first thought it was quite a different idea. It was a very interesting concept, not one that I've seen in any other haunted house type books. Two, yeah, I thought I knew where it was going, and I did not know where it was going completely. I personally liked the concept that ended up like being revealed. I can see how others would not like it if they were walking into it thinking it's a typical haunted house book. It's not. So if you walk into it expecting it to be a typical haunted house book, you might be disappointed when everything is revealed, because it is quite different, like as far as like the concept goes. I personally loved it though. I was like, wow, this is like genius. I think this is amazing. It's very like new and fresh and all that. So, but like I said, I go more in depth into those particular books, compare and contrast in another video. Oh, by the way, I think almost all the books I talked about were, well, you know what, I'm just going to do the TBR tally at the very end because I'm not doing a very good job of telling you right now. Okay, so I think the next book had nothing to do with my TBR. Yeah. The next book is Looking for Alaska by John Green. So, Banned Books Week was back in the beginning of October. And I'm gonna be honest, there aren't a lot of spooky books that are on the banned books list, unless you're interested in reading scary stories to tell in the dark. That's a banned book, but you know, it's a children's book and you can get through it really fast. And I've read it like a million times. But I did a lot for Banned Books Week. I did a short video, and in that video, I asked my community which book should I read, and I picked up two. One was Looking for Alaska. The other one was Perks of Being a Wallflower. And I tallied votes between YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram, and Looking for Alaska won. So I did a 5-day vlog of me reading Looking for Alaska. I'd never read it before. And so if you're interested in that, I have a whole series of shorts on my video. I will link to it in the description below. They're short, so they're very short. But you can get my take like in the moment as I'm reading it. But overall, I really enjoyed reading this book. I can see why it is banned in many places. I can see why it shows up in top 10 lists in the United States every year. However, I don't agree with banned books. Can see why, but also don't agree with it as in terms of I don't agree with banning books. But I think as a teenager or as anyone, it was a really valuable book to read. You can learn a lot from this particular book. So, again, I'll link to those videos, but I loved this book. You should, if you haven't read it, pick it up. Have some tissues though, it made me cry. Okay, so the next book in October that I read is one that I've had on my shelves for quite a while by one of my favorite authors, and that is Our Crooked Hearts by Melissa Albert. I think technically this is probably YA. It doesn't really read like a YA book though, to be honest. It skews pretty grown up. So this book involves witchcraft and what goes wrong when you don't respect what you're doing. If you like the movie The Craft, you'll like this book, because this book reminds me heavily of that movie, The Craft. It's not a, you know, it's not a one-for-one by any means, but they're very similar in concept. So it's a dual timeline. It follows a teenage girl and her mother, and she has a very bad relationship with her mom, and she doesn't understand why. Her mom, when she was a teenager, started to dabble in witchcraft with her friend. Then they become friends with this other girl who seems to know so much more, and she's got this grimoire of sorts who gives them spells that, you know, kind of teach them the craft. Well, this third person kind of tricks the girls into doing this massive spell one night with a fourth witch, and she lied about what the spell would do. And so at the very end, they find out, and then, you know, they cause the spell to go wrong, and there are consequences that happen. In present day, her daughter is like trying to figure out this other mystery, and her mom disappears. Her mom and her mom's friend, who she considers her aunt, they disappear, and she's trying to find them. And so she discovers all these things about her mom, and I'll kind of leave it at that. But there's quite a bit of witchcraft, but it's more like natural feeling witchcraft instead of like magical. But there are definitely some supernatural elements. It can get quite dark, not too dark ever, but dark. But I read it pretty quick. It's pretty quick paced. I thought it was really good. Good writing. I love Melissa Albert. So my next book is not one I know for a fact was never on my TBR, but I pre-ordered it a long time ago and it showed up on my doorstep. And I was so excited about it. I kind of finished up what I was reading and then I just forgot about everything else that was on my TBR and picked this one up instead. So I'm talking about Alchemy of Secrets by Stephanie Garber. I gave this one 4 paws. This kind of asks the question, what if urban legends are real? Now, the urban legends in this book are not based on any urban legends that I have ever heard of. They're based on kind of LA-specific urban legends and centering around the devil making deals in Hollywood. Does the devil make deals in Hollywood? Have famous Hollywood starlets made a deal and paid the price? And so it's all built around this mysterious urban legend class taught by the professor that has a location that you have to find, and you can't really register for it through the college. You have to find it, and then you have to keep finding the different locations of the classes. And then if you complete all that, then that shows up in your transcript and you get credit for taking the class. So there's this woman who took the class, and then she gets this mysterious letter that her father left her something in a safety deposit box. Her father died 15 years prior, and it all kind of connects with these urban legends because she finds out maybe they're not so legendary after all. I think the book is very well written. It was really good. I had a hard time putting it down. I think it wasn't 5-star for me just because, I don't know. The end was good, but it wasn't, great. I had a hard time putting it down, but that doesn't mean I couldn't put it down. So there were, just little tiny things that kind of overall added up to very good, not excellent, but I really enjoyed it. And it's very LA noir somehow, but also takes place in the present day. So if you like those type of books, I highly recommend you pick that one up. Okay, I have 2 more books and a short story to talk about. So the next book that I have is actually an ARC. It is not out yet. It will be published on November 20th, so in a few weeks here, not that long. And it is a Christmas story, actually. It is called The Dog Sitter Detective's Christmas Tale by Anthony Johnson or Johnston. I'll put the cover up here. It's the most adorable cover ever. And so this is a series of cozy mystery books. I have never read any other books in this series before. This is the 4th novel, but I think it works just fine as a standalone. Our protagonist, our kind of heroine, is an actress in her 60s who took a lot of time off and is now trying to get back into acting. And so I found it very refreshing to have an older protagonist. She's got a boyfriend who is a retired cop, and her dad recently passed away. She's kind of in her dad's house going through things, and she finds this mysterious file. It seems almost magical how she finds this file, and it's got some names in it and a phone number, and but it's an older style phone number. Anyway, she kind of puts on her detective hat and she finds this guy, and the guy says, "Yeah, I'd love to tell you stories about your dad. Why don't you come out and visit?" So she and her boyfriend and her boyfriend's dog and a foster dog who gets foisted upon her at the very last second all go out to the English countryside and visit this guy. This guy lives in a compound with 5 other people, something like that. I can't remember. A lot of other people. They're all old. It kind of reminds me of the Thursday Murder Club a little bit. Turns out they're all in some way seem to be ex-spies of some sort or related to spycraft in some way. Well, of course, somebody ends up dead. There is a mystery to be solved. And so, it goes on from there. It all happens around Christmas time. I loved this. I think I gave it 4 paws. I'd probably round it up to 4.5, honestly. It was very good. It starts out in London during Christmas time, and the descriptions of London and Christmas kind of reminded me of my own trip that I took to London a long time ago, 20 years ago now, just after the Christmas holidays, but all the decorations were still up, and so it was very nostalgic for me in the beginning. If you are looking for a Christmas book to put on your list, I highly recommend this one. This is like very solidly cozy mystery, British cozy mystery with some Christmas thrown in. But it also kind of turns into a bit of a dog book. Dogs are cute. A spy novel. And takes you through some kind of Cold War spycraft stuff. It's very interesting. I highly recommend it. I loved it quite a bit. Okay. Let's talk about the short story really quick, because that'll take just a moment. So the last thing that I did finish in October is actually The Legend of Sleepy Hollow by Washington Irving. So I bought this because I decided I wanted to do another cozy reading video, and I thought it was a perfect opportunity to do one with The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. It is, in fact, a short story. It's only about 33 pages. It's very dense, 33 pages, though. So I did do the reading. It's got atmospheric music throughout. It's got, some sound effects and that type of thing. So if you're interested, I'll leave a link in the description below. It is an 1.5-hour video because, like I said, even though it's 33 pages, it is a very dense 33 pages. And like most classic stories, it takes a minute to get going, but I promise you, it's got all the elements that you remember from a child. Whatever version of Sleepy Hollow that you have watched, it's in there. The funny description of Ichabod Crane, his obsession with food, which I totally thought was a Disney thing, by the way. If you've ever watched the animated version of Sleepy Hollow, there's all this like fanciful imagining of food. That's really in there. Washington Irving really wrote that in there. And the kind of creepiness of Sleepy Hollow and the headless horseman and all that. So I thought it was quite good. Definitely worth a read. It is public domain, so you can go on the Gutenberg project and probably find it. I just wanted to purchase a book version of it, but I thought it was very atmospheric, very timely. It'd still be great in November and December, honestly, around a fire with a hot cocoa. Quite good. Okay, now, the very last book was the one and only book I DNF'd over the last couple of months. It's a very popular book. It's got a cult following. It has been made into a huge movie. In fact, movie number 2 is in production right now. It's a sequel that many people have asked for. And I'm quite excited for it too, but I just couldn't get through the book. I couldn't. And the book I am talking about is Practical Magic by Alice Hoffman. Now, to be fair, I did read the audiobook version and not the book version. And maybe it was the audiobook because I didn't really like the narration either. But I listened to half of it. So I did a full 50%. I might have even done a little bit more than 50%. And I had decided at one point to commit to finishing it. And then about a week and a half ago, I just realized I had no desire to keep listening to it in the car. When I was driving around, I would rather listen to radio commercials, which I hate. I hate radio commercials. So I took that as my final clue that I should stop reading, or that I should stop listening to the book, because it just wasn't working for me. There are some big differences between the book and the movie, and I almost always love the book more. I almost always think the source material is always far better than the movie adaptation. However, in this particular case, I have a flipped opinion. I think that the changes that the movie made to the book in order to get it to work as a movie were very smart, and I think they worked better than the original source material. There were some ages that changed. There were some characters that are very minor characters in the book that were, given a moderate or more lead type of role. They changed a bunch of things around, but really, I just couldn't stand like any of the characters. Even Sally, I just couldn't get into Sally. She was like very grating. I didn't like her at all. I wasn't sympathetic to her at all. Jillian was annoying. The girls in the book, they're teenagers, and they're so annoying. They're so annoying. Everybody's just really annoying. And the plot, I couldn't really figure out what the plot was. A lot of the main plot that was like the driver of the movie all kind of felt like it got taken care of early on. Now, that might not be true because I didn't finish the book. So it might show up in the 4.5 hours that I didn't listen to. Hadn't come up in like 2 hours. So I don't know. If it comes back up later in the book, it's like coming out of nowhere, I think. If you love the movie, I would be cautious about the book. I'm not even going to give it like a star rating because, it could just be me. I could be in the minority. But it just wasn't for me at all. I know that it's like earthy magic. It's very grounded magic and practical magic. There is like no magic. There is no magic in practical magic. Like none. In the movie, I know there's like these like little tidbits that you kind of get, and they like allude to some things. And no, none of that. There's none of that in the book. At least not in the first half. So do with that what you will. But I unfortunately decided it was no longer interesting me. And I broke up with it. As my friend at Spill the Reed says, I broke up with that one. Okay, so those were all the books that I read. And so these are the ones that I read that were on my TBR. So out of 12, I read 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 50%. That's actually pretty good for me because the last time I really heavily tracked my TBR, I failed completely. That was like back in May or June or something like that. Anyways, these are the books that were left over from my TBR. So Last House on the Street, Going Home in the Dark, The Manor House, The Castle of Otranto, Horseman, and An Education in Malice. So not bad. I thought I'd only read a quarter of them. If you happen to watch my Gothic, Ghostly, and Grim TBR video from a couple of months ago, and you had a guess as to how many off my TBR I would actually read, I'd be interested to know how close you were. Let me know in the comments below if you were spot on, or you were really off. I don't remember what the guesses are, but it would be interesting to know. So just briefly, I'm not sure yet if I'm going to do a November TBR video or not, but I'll share with you what I'm currently reading right now. Right now I'm reading an arc of Cleopatra. It is a fictionalized version of her life. I'm about 25% into it, and it's very good right now. I forget who the author is, but I think this is I think it's expected to be a pretty big book when it gets released. I think it's not getting released until February of 2026, but I will double check that. So that's what's currently on my Kindle right now. I'm also reading The House Rules by Calvin Naragi. This is an independent author that I discovered through Instagram recently, and my daughter and I have kind of gone through a bit of an adventure with this book. I've put up a couple of shorts, one going to find the signed version of this, and part 1 of 3 of my daughter and I doing a little book date. So we did a little book crawl to different cafes in the area where we read a chapter or 2 of this book at each cafe. So if you missed those, I will also link those in the description box below. And the other ones for the book crawl are coming out. I've just been really busy and I haven't been able to edit them together yet. Those are coming though. Anyways, a few chapters into this one, and then November always reminds me of like baking. And so I was thinking of doing like a reading and baking vlog with a couple of cozy mysteries that I have, the chocolate chip cookie murder and the Strawberry Shortcake Murder. So both of these books have recipes in the back of the books that looked interesting. So I'm thinking of doing a reading and baking vlog with these books and the recipes in the books. Let me know in the comments if that's something that you would be interested in watching, and if I get enough yeses, again, I'll see what I can put together over the course of November. So those are my reading plans right now. That's all I got. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. Thank you so much for watching. Feel free to like and subscribe to my channel. The likes let me know that you like this particular video, and the subscription lets me know that you are enjoying the channel in general. I hope you have a wonderful day. Again, thank you so much, and I will see you next time. Bye.